Hey, welcome back to Pattern Explainer. Today, why your body still thinks it should be walking. Right now, somewhere it's raining. And 50,000 years ago, that exact sound could have killed you 3 different ways before it even stopped. You haven't eaten in 2 days. You found the herd's tracks. You mapped the route in your head. All you had to do was get there. Then it started raining, and it didn't stop. You can't hunt. You can't see tracks. Wet ground and bare feet on rocky terrain means a twisted ankle, and out here that means death. Today, rain means closing your window, making coffee, and opening Netflix. For someone 50,000 years ago, that same sound could kill you in 3 different ways before it even stopped. Cold, flooding, predators. First, cold. A wet human loses body heat up to 25 times faster than a dry one. Without clothing or waterproof shelter, a long rainstorm below 50 degrees Fahrenheit could drop your core temperature into hypothermia range within hours. Second, flooding. Caves and rock shelters, the main places humans lived, sit at the base of hillsides or near rivers. Heavy rain meant flash floods. Archaeologists found layers of flood sediment inside occupied caves, meaning the water came in while people were living there. Some layers are thick, and those caves were never used again. Third, maybe the worst, predators. Rain drove animals into shelter too. Sometimes that shelter was the same cave you were in. There are cave sites in South Africa where human remains and large cat remains are found in the same layers. Some of those humans have puncture marks in their skulls that match leopard teeth perfectly. Rain didn't just make life uncomfortable, it compressed the entire world. Humans, predators, prey, all squeezed into the same small dry spaces. And in the middle of all that, one job mattered more than everything else: keeping the fire going. Here's why that was so terrifying. Controlling a fire that already exists and creating one from nothing are 2 very different skills. And for most of human history, most people probably couldn't do the second one. If your fire went out, you had to carry an ember from somewhere else, wrapped in green leaves or packed inside a woody mushroom called tinder fungus. It was basically a biological lighter. When they found Ötzi the Iceman, a 5,300-year-old frozen man preserved in the Alps, he was carrying a complete fire kit in his belt pouch. Tinder fungus, flint, iron pyrite for sparks, and backup plant tinder. Even 5,000 years ago, losing your fire was serious enough to carry dedicated equipment. So when rain hit, the first priority wasn't shelter. It was the fire. Move it deeper into the cave. Shield it with hides. Feed it carefully. Not too much, not too little. Find dead lower branches from coniferous trees, still dry under the canopy. Split open wet logs to get at the dry wood inside. Use birch bark as kindling. It contains a chemical called betulin that burns even when wet. One person's entire job during a rainstorm might have been just sitting by that fire for hours, feeding it, making sure it didn't die. Because that fire was everything: warmth, light, safety, cooked food, the center of every social interaction the group had. So the fire is going, you're mostly dry, but you cannot leave. What do? You make things. The archaeological record is packed with evidence of manufacturing, stone tools in every stage of production. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found a 100,000-year-old ochre processing workshop. Abalone shells as mixing bowls, ochre ground into powder. This wasn't basic survival. This was production. Then there are bone needles, appearing around 61,000 years ago in South Africa. Delicate tools with tiny drilled eyes. You don't make a bone needle while running from something. You make it sitting still, focused, with hours to spare. Rainy days gave people that time. At a Neanderthal site in France, archaeologists found a tiny fragment of twisted plant fiber string, the oldest direct evidence of string ever found. At Hohlfels Cave in Germany, they found a 35,000-year-old tool carved from mammoth ivory, designed specifically for twisting fibers into rope. Someone sat in that cave and carved a dedicated rope-making machine. Rope changed everything: shelters, snares, tools bound to handles. At Sibudu Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found something unexpected from 77,000 years ago: bedding. Layers of sedges, rushes, and grasses arranged as sleeping mats. The top layers included a natural insect repellent plant. Someone wasn't just surviving in that cave. They were making it home. 77,000 years ago, people were already doing pest control. But here's where the story takes a turn nobody expects. Because all of that, tools, rope, bedding, that's the practical stuff. What came next is something else, the art. Sibudu Cave in France contains paintings roughly 36,000 years old. Lions, horses, rhinos, drawn with a level of skill that still shocks people today. Some animals are drawn mid-stride, muscles tensed. These are the work of people who watched them for thousands of hours and recreated them from memory. Cave art in Sulawesi, Indonesia dates to at least 45,000 years ago, the oldest known figurative art in the world. These paintings aren't at the entrance, where you'd sit for shelter. They're deep, hundreds of meters in, through passages you'd have to crawl to reach. Nobody does that when the weather's perfect and the hunting is good. You do that when there's nothing left to do, but go deeper into the dark and create something. Rain might not have just created art. It might have created culture itself. What happens when 15 to 30 people are forced into a confined space together for days with nothing to do? You talk, you listen, you share information. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner compared daytime and nighttime fireside conversations among the Jew/Hoansi Bushmen of the Kalahari. During the day, people talked about practical things. But at night, around the fire, over 80% of conversation shifted to stories, songs, and ceremonies. The campfire wasn't just warmth. It was the original social network. What was shared wasn't small talk. Where water sources dry up, which plants are safe, where the best flint deposits are. That's critical knowledge passed from one brain to another. Beyond the practical stuff. Stories, myths, explanations for why the rain comes. Every ancient culture on Earth has rain mythology. The oldest verified oral traditions are Australian Aboriginal stories describing sea level changes from roughly 7,000 years ago. Survived through nothing, but people telling them to each other. Rainy days weren't dead time. They were transmission time. When knowledge moved from the old to the young. And rain wasn't always bad. After heavy rain, soft ground means perfect tracks. Mushrooms and plants explode. Termites swarm. One of the most protein-dense foods available. A rainy period didn't stop the food supply. It changed it completely. And the groups who understood that had an enormous advantage. Every tool in a museum, every cave painting, every story that survived 10,000 years. All of it came from someone trapped with nothing to do, staring at a fire. You call it boredom and reach for your phone. They called it the only time they had left to become human, and they used every single second of it. This video is an original educational work created by the author of this channel. All content, including the script, illustrations, and animations, is original creative material produced specifically for this video and complies with YouTube's partner program policies and community guidelines. This video and all its component parts are the intellectual property of the channel owner. All rights reserved. Unauthorized reproduction, redistribution, or reuse of this content, in whole or in part, is prohibited without prior written permission. For educational and informational purposes only. Sources and further reading are provided in the video description.